Hey SC kids, my name is Sammy.
And I'm Martin.
And we are so pumped to spend some time with you today.
Yeah, this is gonna be a blast. In our story today, something crazy and unfair happened to Jesus. He gets treated like a criminal.
Yeah, even though he did nothing wrong, he was perfect.
Alright, so before we jump in, we asked one of our friends to come on here to help us understand how truly unfair Jesus was treated.
Hey guys, my name is Frank, and I'm a local police officer. Martin and Sammy asked me to join you guys to teach you a little bit about my job to help prepare you for our lesson today. Does anyone know what a police officer does? Well, I protect people, and I make sure everyone follows the rules so that everyone is safe. If someone were to break the law and do something bad, and I had proof that they did, I'd arrest them and put them in jail, just to make sure justice is served and peace is restored. In everything, I try my best to practice fairness and implement justice. Martin and Sammy told me that in your lesson today, someone really good, Jesus, gets arrested even though he didn't break the law or do anything wrong. Talk about unfair. All right, let's watch this video and learn about it together.
Jesus came with his disciples to a garden called Gethsemane. He said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Jesus took 3 of his disciples into the garden, and Jesus became very sad and troubled. Jesus told the 3 disciples to stay there, and he went a little farther. Jesus fell face down and prayed, "Father, if it is possible, spare me from this, but I want to do your plan." Jesus came back and found the 3 disciples asleep. He asked Peter, "Couldn't you stay awake with me for 1 hour?" Jesus went away and prayed a second time. Then he found his disciples sleeping again. He said, "Are you still asleep? Get up, for it is almost time. Someone is going to betray me." Suddenly, Judas arrived with a large crowd carrying swords and clubs. Judas kissed Jesus so the crowd would know which man was Jesus. The men grabbed Jesus and arrested him. Peter pulled out his sword to fight the man, but Jesus told Peter to put away his sword. Jesus said, "Isn't this what God planned all along?" Jesus' followers ran away, but Peter stayed nearby to watch. The men who arrested Jesus led him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. The religious leaders wanted a reason to kill Jesus, but they couldn't find one. The high priest asked, "Do you have anything to say? Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?" Jesus replied, "Yes, that's right." The high priest said, "Aha, he has spoken against God." Caiaphas and the religious leaders did not want to believe that Jesus is God's son. They said Jesus was lying, but Jesus was telling the truth. The crowd said, "He deserves to die." They spit in Jesus' face and hit him. A servant saw Peter and asked, "Aren't you one of Jesus' disciples?" "No, I'm not," Peter said. Twice more, as Peter watched what was happening to Jesus, someone asked him if he was a follower of Jesus. Peter lied. "No," he said, "I don't even know him." The next morning, the religious leaders decided how they would kill Jesus. Then they took him to Pilate, the governor. Jesus knew that his death was God's plan to save people from sin. Jesus' friends turned against him and he was arrested and put on trial. But Jesus followed his Father's plan in order to bring salvation to the world.
Hey, have you ever known the right thing to do, but you were afraid to do it?
Yeah,
Well, in a way, that's how Jesus felt when he prayed in the garden to do the right thing. He was arrested. Jesus knew God's plan and he wanted to obey, but obeying God's plan meant that he was going to be hurt and people were going to make fun of him, Martin. They were going to spit on him and they were even going to kill him.
Wow, that does not sound easy.
Yeah, and that's why Jesus asked God for another way, but he was committed to God's plan. Even in the midst of a difficult time, Jesus put God's glory above his feelings.
Oh man, wow, that takes a lot of strength and a lot of trust.
It sure does. Guess what? When Judas and his men came to arrest Jesus, he didn't even fight back.
Yeah, he allowed his enemies to arrest him even though he had the power to stop them.
Exactly, and we know the religious leaders didn't really like Jesus very much, didn't they?
Yeah, they tried to trap him with some tricky questions about taxes and rules not too long ago, but Jesus, he knew what to say.
Yeah, they didn't even follow the rules when it came to sentencing Jesus. They didn't care about fairness or justice. They just wanted Jesus gone.
Wow, that's crazy. Why would anyone want to do that?
But here's what they didn't know. They didn't know that God was using their evil plans to work something wonderful. The Old Testament is filled with so many stories of hard, scary, sad situations happening to people. And guess what, Martin? Each and every time, God used those sad things to do something beautiful and glorious. For example, God took Job's suffering and he used it to show his power and his sovereignty. There's also the story of Joseph, who was a slave, and God used his sad situation to save his whole family and a whole nation from famine. And now God was going to take the saddest and the most unfair thing to ever happen, and he was going to use it to save all of us.
So Jesus dying on the cross is actually kind of a good thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, what happened to Jesus wasn't good because he was hurt and he was bullied and they beat him up. But guess what? God's plan turned something bad into something so good. Jesus' death saved so many people from sin and brought salvation to the world. And guess what, Martin? That's the very best thing.
Wow, that is really the best thing. God is so good.
Sure is.
All right, you know the drill. It's time to stand up on your feet and worship God.
Yay!
Hello, SC kids. Can you please stand up and worship with us?
Lots of room, a big
Guys, it was so great hanging out with you today.
I'll see you next week.
Bye. See you guys.